if you call yourself a master distiller, you're full of shit. And I know a lot of you guys, I'm pissing you off. I love you. But if you call yourself a master distiller, if you title yourself a master distiller, you're full of shit.
Hi, my name is Cal Evans, and this is Hearts and Tales. I'm here in Big Cypress Distillery with Fernando Plata, who's co-owner, owner, and master distiller. You pretty much wear all the hats at some point.
Yeah, just distiller, but that's correct.
Excellent. Now, this whole thing, I love telling the origin story or hearing the origin story. And this whole thing started because you and your cousins were sitting around one night sharing drinks and kept talking about it. And all of a sudden, you said, hey, maybe we can do that. Talk to us about when it stopped becoming just a fun idea and started becoming, hey, we can do this.
Yeah, interesting. So I don't think it was ever an idea. So it comes up to us drinking one night, and like a few weeks earlier, I had this eau de vie that a friend of mine poured, and we're passing the bottle around, and I saw the price, and it was $180, and I was like, geez, I can make this for cheaper. But that pound, I've never distilled in my life till then. I've brewed plenty. I started brewing in 1994. But fast forward to maybe 3 months after that, we're at a Christmas dinner in my house. Probably had a little too much to drink, and I brought up the idea. We always wanted a bar or something, so I opened up. Do you want to open up a distillery? He's like, okay, let's talk. And we opened up a distillery, and that's how it came about. I guess the question was who's going to distill, and I'm like, I guess I'll learn. And that was it. That's how it started. I wish it was a more romantic idea.
No, that was actually very cool. It came out of a night of drinking, so that's a lot of things come out of a night of drinking.
Oh, that's it.
Now, your reputation is built on rum, and I understand that you have some wonderful rum, and I hope to do a tasting when we're done. But you didn't start there. You started with Magic City Gin. Why'd you start with gin and not dive straight into rum?
Yeah, so you probably hear this from a lot of distillers. Mm-hmm. So straight white rums. And granted, there's a lot of categories of rums. There's white rums that could be served from distill. Table white rums that are approachable to most people, are not really straight out of distilled. You have to put them on you have to age them somewhat. Some of the clear rums that come from what we call Spanish rums, they've spent at least 18 months in a barrel, 12 months in a barrel, then you filter the color out. Sometimes they add what we call aguardiente, which is the white dog, right? Back into it and so forth. But in the U.S., we don't have those limitations. You can call rum out of the still, but the rum that I wanted something that people kind of can approach at first. So gin takes 3 weeks, right, out of the still just to marry or so forth. Some might take 2 weeks. I prefer to leave them that. It depends on the distiller. So that's where the idea came. That's what the reason. But I am a gin drinker. I've always been a gin drinker. So creating a gin, and I mean, we thought it would be easy, but to come up with a good product, it took us 29 iterations until we came up with a product that we could serve, and learned quite a bit over the time. And it did become a passion of mine. Now my biggest passion is rum, but we're well known for gin as well.
Well, I look forward to it. I was telling you earlier, I'm a latecomer to gin. I originally did not like it, but I have developed a taste for it. And a good gin, something that somebody's put some time into, is really something beautiful, you know?
Yeah, plus we've changed the approach, right? Traditional gins are juniper forward, which I appreciate. I'm a true believer in a juniper forward gin as well. But as gins evolve, we have this idea of new world gins with the juniper subsided, and we lend a palette to a much wider set of botanicals and character and so forth. So all of a sudden, and in the 20 years ago, we saw a gin. I've been a gin aficionado for a while. We saw a gin that was high in citrus, where the citrus came from citrus product other than coriander, as a cheap gin, right? A citrus bomb, that's not good. I mean, the highest level of citrus would have been something like Plymouth, which it is a good gin. Fast forward till now, well, we've really allowed that new world category to explore to exploit. And some of your traditionalists will say that no, that's not a gin because it's not juniper forward, et cetera, et cetera. It is a gin. I mean, you can, if you want juniper bumps, continue drinking that. I like them. I'll continue drinking them. But I also appreciate product that's not quite not quite as juniper forward. I appreciate the other nuance.
I had never had a citrus forward gin until we were down in Ybor City, or up in Ybor City one day, and they had a bottle shop up there. And I said, okay, this looks interesting. I'll take it. And I took it home. It was fantastic. It was just a beautiful, it still had the botanicals in there, a little bit of juniper, but it was way understated. But the citrus really blossomed in that. And I've been a fan ever since. Every time I see a good citrus gin, I'll make sure and pick up a bottle of it. Now, this is Hell's Bay. Okay, Hell's Bay is your flagship rum, and it's also your favorite fishing spot out in the Everglades.
One of them, yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Tell us about how you go from a fishing spot to the name on the label of one of your rums.
I mean, Hell's Bay. And we did trademark it, guys. So Hell's Bay, it's just an awesome name, right?
Oh yeah.
And it made sense at that time. All our products had the idea of every product that we were going to send out through distribution is that would have a name of something that meant something to us in South Florida. Magic City being the pet name for our city, Miami. Hell's Bay being a geographical area. We have Rabbit Key Liqueur, which is another key down in Florida Bay and so forth. So the idea was to name it after geographical areas that we cared about, and that's where the name came from.
Very cool. I can't wait for the tasting. I have heard so much about Hell's Bay rum from others, and I'm like, I got to try that. It's one of the reasons I was very excited when we were able to line this up, because I already had your reputation preceded you on this. But now, you've been doing this 11 years, and you're one of the older craft distilleries here in Miami. But like others have come before.
Yeah.
And not made it. They faded away. What did Big Cypress do correct?
So I don't know what we did correct, but I can tell you we had a few guiding lights. We had a North Star. And that North Star was to be product first, which is rare. We did not have Big Cypress is now 4 partners.
Okay.
With Mark, it was 2 partners. We've taken on two partners since, who also believe in what our North Star is. So our North Star was product first, and we understand, and we don't even recommend that a company starts that way. You should start marketing first, bottom-down approaches. Top-down approaches. We took a bottom-up approach where the product was first, and it was to never put out a product that was substandard to us, and that had met our expectations. Right? We're never going to compete with Bacardi. We're never going to at their price point, some of the quality points. We're never. They got really good product. We also recognize that, as opposed to the breweries that had quite a bit of latitude. For tasting rooms, whatever. We also recognize that we could not make better product than the conglomerates. The conglomerate whiskey manufacturers make fabulous whiskey. We knew we could never compete with any of the large distilleries in Indiana or Kentucky in that space. But we knew we could make good whiskey that had different characters, that was maybe thicker, that was maybe more body, that was different characteristics to be approached. Can we make better whiskey than I mean, name any of the large distilleries,
Yeah.
Four Roses. No, they're incredible whiskey manufacturers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we can make really good whiskey. That is different enough, and that can compete with those that can compete on character
Yeah.
with those products and being different enough. Similar with a rum. A rum is a very unique rum. So that was the idea, and sticking to our guns, I think it worked. And we've always kept low overhead. I run we run with skeletal teams, and we don't take work that we don't care about, right? There's so I formulate for brands, and we do some as you learned from Paul and Joe,
Yeah.
we do some co-packaging here, but we turn down most of it. It has to make sense for us.
Yeah.
We're just not going to take another brand. We have to take two things. We have to provide the value to the customer that they believe it perceived value to them, and it has to be financially beneficial for us.
Yeah.
So we're not a volume business. So we protect that, and that allows me to run with A-type customers. I don't take B and C customers, which a lot of folks do because they see it out of necessity, right? But then they become a thorn. I learned that from the software world. Cheap customers can become an expensive customer.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up software. That's a great segue because you and I are both software people. You came up in enterprise software. I came up in web development and mainly back-end stuff. In our meeting or our pre-show call, we actually got to geeking out on SQL and stuff like that. And I don't get to do that a lot with this group. So this is great for me. But one of the things we talked about was open source software because we both believe very strongly in that. And you make available all of your recipes should someone want to see what's actually in that.
That's correct.
Where does that come from? Is that your software roots coming up or what?
So early on, I was enamored by the idea of open source in the software world because it gave us the ability to look behind the curtains on something that a lot of folk would not necessarily have access to. At that time in the 1990s, you could see the code for full enterprise-ready database. You can see the code for a full enterprise-ready Unix kernel.
Yeah.
You could see the code for a not so enterprise-ready CRM or ERP tool. And I was enamored by that idea. I also recognized that as an individual, I was not going to write that code. Even if I assembled a full team, I didn't have the ability to write that full code.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. There was something I needed to see. I can figure out where in the files this existed. I apologize.
Okay.
Where in the file this existed, and was able to educate myself. So I figured I believe in transparency. I believe the TTB should enforce every alcohol manufacturer to tell you exactly what's in the product. We can put stuff in here that's an allergen and not name it because we're not required. Like, even though we're pseudo-governed by the FDA, that we're not required to do certain things, and I believe we should. The other thing I recognize is very few people. I mean, you can take my recipe and you can make a gin that tastes like mine, and I don't have an issue. That's a compliment that somebody's trying to do that at their home illegally. But I'm all for legalizing home distillation. So it's just from a transparency perspective. I never feel threatened. And look, if there's another distillery that's making our product, shame on them. They couldn't think of their own, right? But whatever.
Yeah.
If they're successful with it, good luck to them.
I love that attitude. But like I said, I've been in open source. I think since mid '90s, when Linux first came out, and we started getting open source. I've been involved one way or the other. No, I don't write databases and I don't write kernels either. But I learn an awful lot by looking at other people's code and saying, "I like how you did that. Let me build on that."
So I was not under my name. We use pseudonyms. I was a contributor to both Postgres early on and to Slackware.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
One of my very first Linux distros.
I think it was mine.
Yeah.
And it used to take 2 or 3 weeks to get it installed, by the way. But
Yeah. And these days
yeah.
I talk to kids and they're like, what's Slackware? You know?
I know
Like,
it's Ubuntu and it's hit next and it runs in a window within your Windows.
if you didn't have to compile everything, did you really install Linux?
Yeah, that's right. In order.
Now, Florida, I could geek out for a while, but they want to hear about liquor. Florida changed its laws, and distilleries got the same rights as breweries and wineries. They could serve cocktails. So the room we're sitting in used to be your lab. You cleaned it out and set up a very nice bar. I just hate that it's an hour and a half away from me because I could see hanging out here is going to be a fun place to do. What was that first season like, and how did things change at that point?
So opening up a bar in South Florida, in Miami-Dade County, is not easy. I'm not going to go into the details because I'm opening up another distillery.
Oh.
Should be opening the next month or so by the Falls area. And I still need some permits from the county.
Wow.
So I'm going to keep my mouth shut and tell everyone I love the county. But I do love some people within the county, but most of them I don't. That being said, the law passes. It takes us over 8 months to be able to permit the bar.
Uh-huh.
But it's okay. It opens. We're very small. We only host 18 people at a time. The experience that you get in this particular bar is not as elevated experience that I want. And it has to do with some regulations, whatever. We've been able to overcome those for the next location. So we opened. We recognized at that time that we were well known for our products. No one knew us for having a tasting room. So we opened. We never run a bar before, so we have to learn how to do it. We did have great bartenders, which that helped quite a bit, and took quite a bit of guidance from them, but then recognized that their guidance was based on their bias, not what Big Cypress is. And this, over the next 6 or 7 months after we open, we recognize where we want to go, what we want to be. And we only open twice a week, and we run full most of the time.
Wow. That's awesome. When your new one opens, I'm on your mailing list. I'm looking forward to it. Me and the lovely and talented Kathy will come down, stay the night in Miami. I'd love to see what you've got going on.
We'd love to have you guys. Yeah, it's going to be an awesome experience.
That's great. Now, in our pre-show call, you said something that really piqued my interest, and so I put it in here. You said that becoming a true expert in distillation is nearly impossible for anyone, and not just self-taught folks. That's a bold thing to say about your own craft. Tell me what you're thinking is behind that.
So absolutely, and I stand behind it. So there are master distillers, make no mistake. I'm not one of them, but there are. So you have quite a bit, and if you call yourself a master distiller, you're full of shit. And I know a lot of you guys, I'm pissing you off. I love you. But if you call yourself a master distiller, if you title yourself a master distiller, you're full of shit. Because you own a distillery and you've distilled a few gallons of whiskey doesn't make you a master distiller. So can you be an expert in whiskey production? Absolutely. Can that person be an expert in whiskey and gin production? You might be able to make great gin and you might be able to make great whiskey. But to be a true expert requires quite a bit of time, right? 10 years of doing one thing.
Yep.
So if you've only been distilling for 10 years a single product or a single line of products, then maybe. And it requires, at that level, not just making great product is what required. Because there's a lot of great distillers that make incredible product, possibly some better than some master distillers, but they're not necessary. They just know how to make that one product, right? And if they have an issue, they might know how to fix the issue here and there. But to be a true master, a true expert, that means you need to be an expert in gin production, whiskey, liqueurs, pulps, juice extractions. So are you an expert in all that stuff? That's where it becomes. Now, can you be an expert in your domain and a master distiller? Absolutely. What I'm saying is that this is a very wide topic. Can you be an expert in alcohol production? Yeah, absolutely. Can you be an expert in every single domain? I don't know anyone who is, and I don't know anyone who claims to be.
That's an interesting take. And when I introduced you, I called you the master distiller, and you corrected me and said you're the distiller. So now I understand why the correction. You mentioned that Big Cypress released Florida's first bonded in bond whiskey, and I did some research, and I believe you're absolutely correct. I couldn't find anybody else. But bonded in bond is a high bar. I mean, what, 4 years of aging, 100 proof, single distiller, single season, and government regulated.
That's right.
Talk to me about what it took to get there, to get this bottle released.
So ours was a 5-year release. I miscalculated by 1 year. I should have released it a year early. No, it wasn't tasting right, so we decided to let it run a little longer. And this will go until a conversation that we're likely going to have about aging in Florida, in South Florida specifically. So no, we've been putting out 4 to 5 barrels of whiskey every year. I created a 100% malted rye expression. We cut it for a longer ride. Somewhere in the middle, I decided that it was going to be bottled in bond. After 5 years, we put it in a bottle. That barrel yielded only 87 bottles, by the way. And that's a full-size hogshead. And that's what we deal with here. Our angel share are a lot higher than anybody.
We got a lot more angels here in Florida.
Sure. Sure. And that was that. We did our research. I was like, oh, wow, this seems to be the first bottled in bond in Florida. And that's it. So it's cool. Look, I hate that I'm the first that did it brown rum. It's a fact down here, but who cares who the first is? It's who's doing it the best, right?
Yep.
And who the customers like. There's room for other distillers. I mean, we have 2 other distilleries that I know of in Miami, and they're great people putting out really good product that's making me proud to be part of this craft movement down here.
That is very cool. Yeah, I know there's a few more down here. There's a couple up in Fort Lauderdale also, and it's just very interesting. And you're right. There's room for a lot of different people, but the bottled in bond is it's such a high bar. And you talked about the angel share, and here in Florida, you do give up an awful lot. That works into my next question. I did the Jack Daniels tour in Tennessee, and they rotate the barrels in the barrel house. Barrel house sits on the hill, and in winter everything contracts. In summer it expands. We don't have winter here, and there's only so much it can expand. So how do you age a fine rum or a fine whiskey if the climate doesn't cooperate?
So rum is not an issue, because we use barrels, right? The older the barrel, the better for rum. And then entry points matter too, because of the tannins. I'm not going to get too crazy, but I'll explain the process. So the first thing on American whiskeys, American named whiskeys, your bourbons, your ryes, your malt whiskeys, anything that requires a new barrel, we have a big issue. The first issue is, can we find 3-year aired season barrels? Those barrels have tighter porousness already. They also cost 3 to 4 times more than a regular 1 to 2 year air season barrel, if you can even find them. Second is, can we do the way we treat the barrel before we get it? Can we get a deep long toast with a char too? That helps. Then we do something else. When we are prepping the barrel, we fill it up with hot water a few times, and we try to extract a little bit of those tannins. Notice I said water. The barrel is still new. Water is okay. You can wash your barrels. So the barrel's still new. So and then we hope we don't overwood. So that means you have to go in a little dirtier than you would on a barrel that contracts. So our maturity times change. This idea that heat matures faster, there's so much that happens when you go into the barrel. But the one thing is the fact that we extract at a faster level. So the entry points really matter for us. So while on the rum side, on a neutral barrel, I prefer to enter about 55%. On the alcohol, when I'm making a whiskey, if I'm going to blend it amongst multiple barrels, I do different entry points and then figure out what we do with the tannins. Tannins are water soluble. So if I come in at 55, I'm going to extract more tannins. However, on young barrels, if you enter too high, you're extracting more resin and you get that resiny flavor, which is also off.
Yeah.
On 3-year seasoned barrels, that resin is pretty much dissipated.
Ah.
So that helps. So I'm able to enter a little higher. I'm a true believer in light whiskeys because it allows us to use barrels, entry points a little different, and so forth. But if we're making bourbon or rye, we're dealing with that problem.
Yeah.
The other way we address that issue, and we're open about it, is if I overwood, I'll buy Indiana or Kentucky bourbon that meets my expectations and use it to blend down Big Cypress bourbon in order to get the flavor. Yeah, at the end of the day, I used to believe we had to make everything here. As long as we're transparent and as long as, at a minimum, 50% of the product comes from us, I'm okay using that.
That's very cool, and much better explanation than I was expecting. Well, we air condition the barrel house.
Oh, no. This shit gets 210 degrees here when we're distilling sometimes.
Wow. Okay, last question. I'd hinted to the fact that you and I both came up in software, but you also, before that, you were in 82nd Airborne. When you look at distillation, does the system thinker of enterprise software and 82nd Airborne, does that still show up, or does the craft take over?
Both, right? So I mean, craft could be process driven too. It's just the materials that you choose to use that in my opinion, what makes you craft. There's a lot of folks that call themselves crafts, and meanwhile they're buying a lychee essence, right? And adding a single. I shouldn't use lychee, but the reason I use lychee is because lychee essence doesn't have any lychee. It's a roast derivative. That being said, I'll be remiss not to say that there is a lychee liqueur made in a distillery in South Florida by the Pouncey Brothers Distillery that has real lychee in it and is absolutely phenomenal. So it wasn't talking about their liqueur, but yeah. So, and they call themselves craft. In my opinion, craft is when somebody is using when somebody's not using the real material, right? If you say this is a craft manufactured liqueur, and the orange flavor comes from an exogenous flavor house, it's not craft.
Yeah,
you're adding it. But if you're peeling the oranges, you're doing the extraction yourself, you understand what oxidation is, and I believe that's craft. But meanwhile, I'm not here to tell somebody what they are or not. That's my belief. The term is overused, but your question was whether process. Yeah, look, I'm an engineer, so process drives quite a bit here, and understanding why things happen drives. Is it needed for the industry? No. There's people that been learned from their grandfathers that make extremely good product that probably have no clue about what a hydrogen bond is, right? And nor do they need to. But I do. I need to know why those things happen. So process drives a lot, but I'm also a creative. So flavors come out of creativity. The process drives commercial, the commercial aspect of the business. So I use both.
Okay. Well, very cool. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know you're trying to get another location open, and I know your time is precious. But thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today on Hearts and Tales. Audience, thank you for being with us. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned a few things. I know I have. Hey, do me a favor. If you're on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button, okay? So you don't miss a single episode. We drop a new episode every month. I don't want you to miss a single one. Until next month, Thank you so much. My name is Cal Evans, and this is Hearts and Tales.